to me! Stand and fight, you coward! Incompetent, idiotic, fat-headed nincompoops!
Hello everyone, thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the Marvel database, which has plot synopsis and character bios for the issue we're about to cover today. So, growing up in the 80s as I did, there is two cartoons, well, three really, that my generation love. It is 80s centric. Transformers, which we will get to cover, G.I. Joe, and Voltron. We are going to be looking at G.I. Joe #1 from 1982. And we've got this iconic cover by Herb Trimpe and Bob McLeod. Love this here. The ultimate weapon of democracy. That is total 80s. Look at this. I have nothing but beat up copies of this. I do not have the entire run. They're all beat up. They're all worthless, but they mean a lot to me. And I said, God, I should cover these because there's just not very many out there. I looked to see if anybody covered these, and there's just a few out there. So I said, well, why not? I cover comic books. This, to me, is nostalgia more than anything else. I just absolutely love reading these. But I ended up leaving at about issue 50 or so. And so I figured, all right, I'll cover as many as I can. It depends on, whether or not this gets a lot of play or whatever. It depends if people really like it or not. But, yeah, so here we go. The whole purpose of this comic was to sell toys. And so what more than having this right here? So the splash page is more of a pinup. Operation Lady Doomsday. We got G.I. Joe holding the American flag. We got Scarlet here. Stalker. A lot of people wearing green. It's kind of hard here. Now this looks like Cobra Commander, but this is Snake Eyes right here. But we're not really seeing him. So Larry Hama started writing from the very beginning. So Larry Hama is still writing G.I. Joe 300 plus issues later. I don't think he's missed a single issue since they relaunched G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero. Even now with Image Comics, I think Robert Kirkman is publishing G.I. Joe. It's still him. Herb Trimpe is the penciler. Rest in peace. Herb Trimpe is the co-creator of Wolverine. And then Bob McLeod is the inker. All right, here we go. So we start out with a train. And here it states that he doesn't like having all these soldiers and Secret Service all in the train trying to protect one person. And of course, the conductor asks, who is she? And this soldier here says it's Dr. Adele Burkhart, the nation's top nuclear physicist, one of the brains behind Project Doomsday. So you can see here that this woman here is you can see here this. I love that they're even wearing hats. Just how inconspicuous that is. What's happening is she is going to be testifying about a Doomsday, Project Doomsday. She tells the press here that she was tricked into working on this doomsday project. She claims to have been deceived by the U.S. military, to be more specific. She's essentially going to tell the truth and turn into a whistleblower. Basically, that whole idea of a doomsday weapon is basically a weapon that you just cannot use. You're going to annihilate everything. And you see here that it's capable of destroying all life on Earth. Why would you? I understand, but total annihilation. These militaries, and it's not just the American military, man. All militaries just wanna subjugate the world, in my opinion. There's a noble. I don't know. We always think that our military is always just and fighting for it's kind of funny. The theme song of GI Joe is the fight for freedom. Whatever there's trouble, GI Joe is there. We just kind of think of that as the military, but militaries do some horrible things too. But this idea of doomsday weapons, it was a big 80s thing. Everybody just in 60s and 80s, everybody thinks that the world's just gonna get annihilated. So, but of course, on cue, here comes Cobra. Can you hear in your head someone yelling Cobra like they did in the cartoons? So, um, the Baroness is there, and they're basically here to capture Dr. Burkhart, and they need her alive. So, it's kind of funny here where it says the fools were totally unprepared for a surprise attack. What is the point of having all these? How can you be unprepared? I understand it's a comic book and we need to get to the story, but how can you be unprepared? You've got the Secret Service and everybody in there. So, and of course, some of them, the reporters there were members of Cobra. So, and so the Secret Service is going to try and save her, or stop them from kidnapping her. And so this guy here is like, can't get a clear shot. We're gonna hit civilians anyway. Baroness eventually, you see Baroness here, and she eventually captures her and says, "Back off, or I'll turn her face into a fine red mist." Dr. Burkhart says, "Do as she says, because they only want her, and she doesn't want any innocent blood shed on her account." Baroness, who, by the way, that she has that in the show had that European accent, says, "Shut up, you're making my trigger finger itch." So the Baroness tells this guy to hold them off. You can see here they're gonna powder their noses, so they're gonna head into the washroom here. Dr. Burkhart says, "This is hopeless. You'll never get off this train." And she says, "Hold still. If these straps aren't tight, you'll dislocate your shoulders when I activate the gas canisters." So it looks like she's going to use some kind of balloon, but she just shoves her out. That's probably going to give her a concussion. Says, "I hope you're not afraid of heights, Dr. Burkhart." And so she's going up, and of course, that helicopter's waiting. Now, I don't think so, but we're gonna suspend disbelief because it just wouldn't work that way at all. This thing, it's just not gonna, um, yeah. So, this thing would get shredded by the oh, I almost said wings. God, rotators? No. I think it's just rotors. Anyway, so they're taking Dr. Burkhart here. And so now we're at the Pentagon. You can see that they're on high alert here. And so this guy's saying, "How bad is it, General?" I love this part here. The fan didn't just get hit this time, it got smothered, meaning shit hits the fan. Ah, that's awesome. They just even put the pun on a comic book for kids. Although this is more mature than you would think, but still. And so the general says Burkhardt has more dangerous secrets rattling around in her head than the Russians have tanks. And he says, well, those secrets are useless without necessary technology to back it up. Of course, it is Cobra that kidnapped them. And of course, they have access to. And of course, they left a little note here. Try to rescue her and she dies. So, this guy says, wouldn't it be better if we try to rescue her and fail? And then, of course, Cobra, and I like it here, terminates her, as he says here. And the general who's smoking a pipe, who's, I don't think in the 80s they smoked pipes anymore here. Anyway, he says, no, they're in a double bind. They can't let Cobra keep her long enough to use her, and they can't let her die because the whole world knows that the government considers her an embarrassment. And so if they let her die, they'll just blame the U.S. government. And so the general says that their only possible course of action is a successful rescue. So here they're watching a video of Cobra. Um, so, uh, I don't know. It's nostalgia to me. So, says it won't be easy. There's a lot of Cobra personnel. This could turn into a bloodbath for the U.S. military to try to rescue the doctor. And so they say they really should call in G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe is a special counter-terrorist group. And they're part of the Delta Force, essentially. And so they said, let's see what those G.I. Joe, I never can say, I don't know, Dosh? I don't know. Whatever that word is, it's like a file. So let's see what the G.I. Joe files the General Flag had him compile. So we're going to get and introduce the G.I. Joes at that time when this came out. So a lot of Hawk actually didn't come out till I think the third season of G.I. Joe. And here he's blonde, but he was brown haired on the cartoons. A lot of these people, Scarlet showed up. There's no Duke. If you take a look here, there's no Duke. Snake Eyes is here. Rock and Roll only appeared in a few. A lot of these guys were not part of the core, so it's kind of funny. Stalker was sort of like in the first miniseries had a big part, but then after that he sort of didn't. So, all right, so they're going to. So here we get our first introduction to the G.I. Joes. Like I said, available at that time. See you. And then he's the leader, General Hawk. And I'm sorry, at this time he was a colonel. But when he was introduced, and how I knew him was General Hawk, because I knew of the cartoon first. And so we have Colonel Hawk at that time. And this guy's Clutch, and he says, slow down, man. We're not in Thunder Road. And he says, with all respect to your rank, he's got orders from General Flag to deliver him to G.I. Joe Command Central ASAP. So that's what he's doing. So General Flag was, of course, the other two were both generals. General Flag was will become prominent through this series, but I do not think he was ever in the cartoon. I do not recall. So, General Flag and General Austin, of course, were the ones who ordered him, and he says, a Hawk says, "Old iron butt Austin, step on it, clutch, or we'll be both facing a court martial." And so we get introduction to more characters, rockin', just code names, Grand Slam and Zap. I think are these two. This is Rock and Roll, and then this is Steeler here. And so they're going to go downstairs to what was in parentheses the basement. You can see here that they're being taken, and here is where GI Joe is training. You see this guy here kind of underwater, or these two are training or having a what is it where they're a scrimmage, maybe. I think that's football, but anyway, you got Scarlet, and just other people. So, and here's General. If you see me calling him General Hawk, I apologize. It's Colonel at this time, but he was General Hawk to me. Like I said, growing up in the cartoons. He tells everyone to report to the briefing room in 5 minutes. So, this guy assesses that, or this is Breaker, I believe. So Scarlet says, "We got another mission." He says, "I bet you it's that Burkhart kidnapping." And Stalker says, "They're going to risk our bus to rescue a woman who's practically a tater." How's that sit with you, Snake Eyes? Remember, Snake Eyes doesn't talk. So, and so you see this just nothing. And Stalker says, "Can I quote you on that?" So they pulled this hologram of where they believe this they're keeping her in this island in a Spanish fort. The colonel says from this point, he's pointing at the top of the mountain, Cobra can get a 360, so getting in there is going to be very difficult. Hawk continues to tell him of all the traps that they have there, probably electrified fence, wire mines, tanks, all sorts of stuff. So he tells Stalker, Grunt, and Short Fuse to take out the airfield tower, um, that and the hangar, leaving one small craft intact. Flash and Breaker will take care of the radar. Mission Supply will fix them up with some special black boxes. And then Scarlet and Snake Eyes will knock out the generator in the fort. Snake Eyes, of course, is probably the coolest, and the whole reason he is the most popular of all GI Joes. Even to this day, it is Snake Eyes. You put in an action figure, Snake Eyes will sell first. So just like most people, Snake Eyes is also my favorite because just that's how he was portrayed. He was portrayed as the coolest member of GI Joe. So most kids gravitated toward him. So my second favorite GI Joe though was Spirit, the Native American tracker. So he'll eventually show up in the series here. So, Hawk says that their objective is to clear the way for the secondary team that will actually storm the fort. And then he gives them the only photo of Cobra Commander that is in existence. He says if he's personally in charge of the operation, the odds against them is double. Remember, this is before the cartoon where Cobra Commander was then sort of created as a always failure and all that kind of stuff. But, early on, and in the comic book, he's presented as a more sinister. This comic book does not follow the lead. It introduces the character, but Larry Hama tells a whole different story than what is done in the cartoons, which is, I think, why people still resonate with this series. Here they said never turn your back on the Baroness unless she's dead, and even then he'd search her for grenades. So I mean, you talk this is definitely a much more mature thing than the cartoon. You know, you got real guns, you got bullets, all sorts of stuff. So, and so they show them a picture of Dr. Burkhart so they know who they have to rescue her. So Snake Eyes in sign language uh, says something to the colonel, which Scarlet translates essentially. He says, "Shouldn't we just bomb the island?" And Hawk says, "No, we're the good guys. The island has a civilian population, and besides, it's not our job to judge Dr. Berthard." And then, "What is our job?" says one of them here, because they don't say. It says, "We're soldier. Our job is to follow orders to do the impossible and make it look easy." So we move our action forward, and we're in Cobra Island here. We see here that Cobra is prepared for about anything that can happen. This Cobra Commander, like I said, is very intelligent, very uh, militaristic. He is. I don't want to say that in the cartoon they made him into a bumbling idiot per se, but it's kind of hard not to think that. Um, but every time I hear Cobra Commander speak, I still hear, the cartoon voice, the same actor who played Starscream. Rest in peace, Chris Latta. He had a heart attack many, 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 many years ago. So Dr. Burkhart says the same thing that initially Snake Eyes did. Don't you think the government that would sponsor something as reprehensible as Doomsday Project would think twice about vaporizing the whole island to preserve its precious secrets? Cobra Commander says, "Doctor, the situation is far more complex than you believe. That which seems mindless is often precisely choreographed. Don't you agree, Baroness?" And Baroness says, "It's always best to let your opponents think they know what you're up to." And so look at this guy here, how he just salutes them. "Cobra Commander, the radar has spotted a submarine in the surface 20 miles north of the island." Cobra Commander says, "Excellent." He says, "Dispatch 2 heavy weapon platoons to cover the North Beach, and on their way, they can stop at the fishing village to carry out the contingency plan." And he talks to Dr. Burkhart here and says, "My dear Dr. Burkhart, you will soon see the distinct advantages of having no scruples whatsoever." So this part here, I'm just kind of gonna move along here. The Joes are gonna try to go in. Cobra, of course, is watching them leave or watching them come in. And so we have them trying to take over. Here comes Stalker getting rid of some of the enemies. Here come the Joes. So kind of dispatching Cobra. And so they take out their map and off they go to keep their plans. So real quick also, just if you can't tell the symbolism when you watch Cobra of Nazi Germany, it's not being hidden. This is purposely being done. Cobra represents Nazi Germany. That's essentially, instead of swastika, they have the cobra here. So Baroness says, "Your troops turned tail and ran, Commander. The American intruder team escaped without a scratch." "We were outgunned, sir. They had some sort of portable air support. We were completely surprised." And Cobra Commander says, "Not as surprised as I. I hadn't expected any of you to survive. This G.I. Joe is less efficient than I thought." So he was using them as basically cannon fodder. Much more ruthless, like I said, than the cartoon. Baroness says they're more efficient than she likes. She says, "Kill the hostage now and send out fire teams to sweep the whole island." Why would you kill her? You need the plans. I mean, I thought that was the whole freaking point. So So Cobra Commander, like I said, is not the bumbling idiot that is in the cartoon. So he says, "No, my good Baroness, that's exactly what they want us to do. This initial landing is a feint to draw my troops away from the fort so they can set up for a heavy assault, which will land on a closer beach." He says as he walks up. "We have Dr. Burkhardt, therefore they must come to us. And when they arrive, they will find the fort at full strength." So, again, here's the symbolism. It's all over. So, we know by looking at this who the villains are just right off the thing. So, Cobra Commander is absolutely ready. This is a very cool Cobra Commander, who, by the way, because of my love for Starscream and Chris Latta, is my second favorite of all the things. So Snake Eyes is number one. Cobra Commander is number two. I love both both his masks. Every just Cobra Commander is a cool character to me. So and so again, we see the Joes trying to break in. So we'll just kind of keep moving on here. So, and you see Scarlet and Snake Eyes go in, and they, of course, find Dr. Burkhart. Scarlet says even though Snake Eyes doesn't talk, she knows what he's thinking. One place shot, and they could scrub the mission and be home free. But that's the easy way out, and if this job was supposed to be easy, G.I. Joe wouldn't have gotten it. So, and then of course we got this airfield. Um, how the heck does Cobra get that much? I always wondered how the heck did they do they get this money for a private organization? They are very well funded. They have the budget of a country. So and so at the top we see the Joes on the airfield, but now we're at the Pentagon here, and they're kind of following or monitoring the situation from there. Um, and they say, what if the diversion fails? Our men are on their own all the way. So this is, of course, the real name, and we have here the code names and their names. So and so here we go again, and the Joes are ready, and they throw and blow away some of their airplanes here, and so dispatch some of the Cobra. When the Joes leave, they call in and says, "Airstrip bunker team reporting. Everything is going according to plan. The intruders destroyed dummy planes by mortar attack. One light aircraft left intact. Over." So, and then here we go. Love how they make Snake Eyes here. And this guy here tells the other guy that Cobra Commander wants constant radar approaching the southern, and he says nothing out there for 150 miles, and doesn't see that they're right behind them. So, and the Joes continue to advance, and Baroness says, "Commander, they've already destroyed the airstrip, and yet you still refuse to kill the hostage. If you have a master plan, I demand to be informed of it." Cobra Commander says, "Patient, Baroness." So, Baroness continues, "But Cobra's credibility is worthless unless we carry out our threat to kill her now." And Dr. Burkhardt says, "Go ahead and get it over with. I'm not going to help you anyway." And Cobra Commander says, "All in good time, Dr. Burkhardt. One must defer pleasures if one wishes to savor them." And again, love how this dude just salutes him as he talks. "Commander, the G.I. Joe heavy assault team has landed." He says, "Splendid." And so here comes the other Joes. And off they go. Very cool panel here. You can see rock and roll on his bike. You know, it's kind of funny because the cartoon started with Duke and, you know, so many. It just. I know Flint and Lady J didn't come till I think the second season, but this first issue, other than like I said, there's no Duke, there's Scarlet. Basically, there's Scarlet and Snake Eyes. So and so here, these two throw like a grenade, explodes, and Cobra Commander says their penetration team has just blown the main generators. Baroness, I believe it's time to fill you in on my game plan, he says. Do you plan to kill Dr. Burkhart now? No. And then he says Dr. Burkhart in quotations here. Dr. Burkhart is due at the airfield. Have a staff car and escort standby to transport her. So here they go. And so here we have the poor villages, and he goes, I don't believe it. Cobra wiped out the entire village, women and kids, everybody. They did it to keep them from helping us. So look at this. This is, you just don't see this in the cartoon. Dead bodies. That is something. This was, like I said, this wasn't. And it's funny because kids are the ones that were reading this, but this is a definite not kids. So it's our fault if we hadn't come here. So so we're gonna continue, and GI Joe is taking care of more of the Cobra tanks, and they're going through that jungle, getting rid of more Cobras, and they and here comes Stalker to grab Dr. Burkhart, but turns out it was the Baroness. And she says the fact that you were doomed from the very beginning. So, and now we're gonna kind of get our reveal here, kind of everything that has been going on. He says everything's running according to plan, Dr. Burkhart. I knew that I wouldn't have the time to extract the doomsday plan from you unless I had neutralized the one force that had any chance of effecting a rescue. So I used you to lure the G.I. Joe team into a trap. And now I don my special combat helmet. When the entire team is inside this castle, I shall activate the 5-minute timer on my wrist that will detonate 5 tons of explosives, which is buried under the fort. Of course, we shall be well away in my helicopter by that time. Number one, if he has 5 tons, he doesn't even need a timer. Once he gets away, he just pushes that button and explodes right away. And that just pretty much levels everyone. So, 5 minutes. So, off goes the Joes to get into the fort. Cobra's not able to stop them. They're taking, G.I. Joe is getting everybody out. And Scarlet's suppressed because they thought that Dr. Burkhart had been rescued. So the Cobra Commander says, drop your weapons or he will terminate the life of the good doctor. Scarlet says, you haven't got the chance, Commander. The entire G.I. Joe team is right behind us. And he says, I'm sure they are. But I sincerely doubt that even your illustrious team can penetrate 12 inches of case-hardened steel in time to be of any use. And so the door is closing. You can see that G.I. Joe is killing Cobra because they're using real bullets, not those lasers that never hit anybody. So, and Cobra Commander now is wearing his helmet that is so friggin' cool. God. So, Cobra Commander says, um, now that they drop their weapons, go to the wall over there. He shall board the aircraft and depart. The activator will unlock the steel door in 5 minutes. The doctor, of course, says it's a trap. It's actually a timer, which is kind of funny because why wouldn't you shoot? Why would you say go step? You know, I understand we have to, but sometimes I think writers, um, I don't know, fall into these tropes. Like obviously, kill them. You have them right there, or find another way. So, and of course, Cobra Commander says, "Stop it, you fool! You ruin everything." And he was gonna shoot, but Dr. Burkhart got in the way, and they could have saved themselves if not for me. I won't be responsible for their death. I won't let you kill them. So, and Cobra Commander says he shot Dr. Burkhart, but he won't get away. And she throws the ninja star and hits him in the wrist, and then the Joes eventually do blow. Everybody's got green. They blow the door, and they take Dr. Burkhart. And who was always with the bubble gum? There was always somebody with the bubble gum, and that's what this is. Just somebody blowing a bubble gum. So, of course, they know that there's a timer. They got 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes to get out, and they see the blood, and so they know that there's a hidden passage because where the blood is going. So anyway, and then they're like, are not able to get Cobra Commander. They're like, there's no time anyway, and so they leave a chopper, and off they go, and then boom, the place is destroyed. And all the guys are like, my tank, my Jeep, my motorcycle. Don't sweat it, guys. General Austin will be glad to buy you all new set of wheels when we show up with Dr. Burkhart because the government loves spending money. So she says she appreciates their help, but, she feels that her actions were justified to be a whistleblower. Meanwhile, in this airplane here, Baroness and Cobra Commander are going to get away. Cobra Commander says that she's going to have to fly because his hand is useless. Um, and she says, shall I plot a course for our true headquarters, Commander? Yes, this endeavor has ended in failure. We must rest for now. So I wanted to go back to one scene here. This panel here where I have the little mouse here. And I kind of just went over it. I was trying to be as quick as possible, but I still took forever to tell the story. So I apologize for that. But when Short Fuse was like here telling Hog, are you trying to tell me she ain't no traitor? And he says, calm down, Short Fuse. We each took an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States. That Constitution guarantees the right of every citizen to disagree with the government. It is, to me, very impressive that they included that in this issue. Larry Hama, man, kudos to you, man. So, G.I. Joe #1 from 1982. Larry Hama, Herb Trimpe, Bob McLeod. Like and subscribe. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.